Welcome to a Better Divorce podcast, where we have conversations about the emotional, financial, and legal issues that are on your mind or should be on your radar if your goal is to keep your divorce out of court. I'm collaborative divorce attorney and mediator Andrea Vacca, and I know that how you divorce matters to your long-term well-being. That's why it's my mission to help you have a better divorce with as little acrimony as possible, so that you can create the best life possible on the other side of your marriage. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea Vacca, and I'm very happy to welcome Kate Anthony to the podcast today. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Andrea. It's so good to be here. Good to see you.
You too. So for those of you who don't know who Kate Anthony is, which probably not, most of you probably do, she's the author of The D Word, which is the D Word, making the ultimate decision about your marriage. And she's also the host of a critically acclaimed New York Times recommended podcast called The Divorce Survival Guide, and the creator of a coaching program, which is called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Right, Kate?
Yep. Among a million other things, right?
Yes. So the book and the coaching program all help people, women in particular, make the most difficult decision of their lives, which is whether to stay or leave their marriage. So it's really great to have you here. Welcome to the Better Divorce podcast.
Thank you. It's so good to be.
Yeah, so we met back in 2020 when I was on your podcast, and we talked about collaborative divorce at that time. It's funny, just recently somebody reached out because they had heard that episode. You know, you never know when people are going to hear the episodes, right? But
Right.
I'm really happy to have the conversation with you today about why it's so difficult in particular for women to follow through when they say they want to end their marriage. So we're going to really dig into that today.
Yeah, it's, in my experience, I mean, first of all, right, it takes about the average person, I think, about 5 years to finally decide. And then it takes them like 5 times of having this horrible, difficult conversation before they're moving forward or something, any movement is happening. And so, yeah, I strive to shorten that for people so they can have the conversation one time, but very intentionally.
Yes. If there's one common experience I've heard from my female clients, in heterosexual marriages in particular, is that they've tried to have this divorce conversation so many times. They think they've had it, but it doesn't stick, or they go back, or they rethink their decision, and they end up right back where they started over and over again. So
That's right. That's right.
I want to know, how, let's talk about what does it take for someone to make this conversation stick and stop having the conversation multiple times? What's your best advice for that?
Well, the main thing is to understand that this is not a conversation. This should be a declaration. This is you are telling them. You're not asking for a divorce, right? It's right there in our lexicon. The problem is in the lexicon right there, right? I asked him for a divorce, right? Why? Why did you ask him? So we're not asking for permission. If you go into this conversation expecting your partner, your spouse to say, "Oh, okay, I guess you're right." You're waiting for, Godot. Like, it's not happening. So that's the most important thing to remember, is that this is not a conversation. We are not engaging in dialogue. You are imparting information, which is that you have come to the end of the road and that you are done. And that is, over 70% of divorces are initiated by women, as you well know. And so it is a really difficult thing for women in particular to wrap our heads around, because we're not used to choosing. We're not used to choosing We wait for boys to ask us to dance at the school dance, or, ask us to prom. We wait for men to ask us on dates. We wait for men to propose. And so the idea that we actually have choice and agency in this, right? I mean, how many dates have you gone on in our long, histories, that you didn't really want to go on, but like, oh, well, he asked, so I should probably, right? Like, what? This
Yes.
is what we do as women. It's how we're socialized. It's how we're conditioned. And so the idea that, like, I am making a choice, and I am really making a choice. I am powerfully choosing that I am no longer interested in being married, is really like, it's a mindset shift that has to happen before you have the conversation.
Yes. And it has to happen. You have to have that conversation with yourself.
It's
You
internal.
can't
That's
come
right.
to this, you can't get there by having the conversation with your spouse. It has to
Right.
be
It
done
has to
before.
happen first, right,
Right.
with yourself. There's a mindset shift work that you have to do, which is, why divorce coaches are such a great tool for this, right? There's an entire mindset shift that needs to happen before you even go into the conversation. And uh, I also have my clients write the whole thing out. Um, because when you get into it and you get all tongue tied and it's hard and they respond and they're making it difficult, well, of course they're going to make it difficult. They don't want this. 9 times out of 10, the person that you are breaking up with doesn't want to be broken up with. Right?
Yeah. Right. Let's talk about that. Like that 70% statistic is huge. 70% of divorces are initiated by women. Think about
Yep.
that. That is
Mhm.
incredible
Mhm.
disparity in people who are unhappy in their marriages. So why do you think women are more unhappy than men?
Mm.
In all the coaching that you've done, what do you think is going on there?
Well, we do all the work. I mean, we
Mm,
really do all the work. We do more emotional labor. Men seek therapy very rarely. It's not, again, there's this cultural conditioning. I am, like, for men, um, to seek help for their emotional issues is much more rare than women. Um, it's something like 75% of personal development is consumed by women, and that includes therapy. And so, and when men go to therapy, I don't know that they necessarily know how to use it, right? Because again, it's not in their conditioning, not their fault. This is the way in which patriarchy is just as bad for men as it is for women. In fact, they have higher rates of suicide. They have higher rates of mental illness, and they die earlier from stress related diseases, right? Like, this is not good for men. And yet, it also serves them in so many ways. So marriage in and of itself tends to work really well for men and not for women. So, there was a study done years ago that was figuring out, like, the most happy population groups, right, of cis hetero people. And married men were the happiest. And then single women, and then single men, and married women were the least happy population group.
yeah.
But their spouses were the most happy. So there is an enormous disparity in the division of household labor, even with working. You've got two working parents, and I think on average, a man has something like 12 more leisure hours per week than women. I don't know if that includes going to the bathroom or not, but like, we all know that they get home from work and then they go into the bathroom and it's like an hour. And like, I don't know what you're doing in there, but maybe you need to see a doctor. So, um, right. And it's, and they're playing video games or whatever while we're like, cooking dinner, organizing, shopping, keeping track of all of the kids' scheduling. And we're the ones that are updating the calendar, the family calendar. We're the ones that field all of the messages from schools and all the right? And we are drowning in the amount of work and labor we're doing. And then they're not seeking help or therapy. And we have to be their therapist too. And we have to remember their mom's birthday and to buy all of the Christmas presents and wrap them all. And, we're exhausted. We're exhausted. And then their biggest complaint is that they're not having enough sex. And they did a study. There was I can't remember which organization, but there was a scientific study that was done a couple of years ago that found that men who do more domestic labor have more sex. That is not a coincidence.
Yeah.
If your wife is not utterly exhausted and feels like she has been had the life sucked out of her, she might feel sexy and attracted to you
And not
and have
exhausted.
and not exhausted, right? And actually have some energy, before bed. So, or at bedtime.
That's good for all engaged people to know as they start this relationship. But then
100%.
women and men fall into these patterns of this very traditional way of handling
Totally.
tasks
Right.
around the home, responsibilities, even when both are working full time. And as we were talking before the show, and you said, you think women just want to be acknowledged for how unhappy they are in those conversations, and they're not getting that. So men just don't see that women are unhappy, or they don't care. Like, what do you think's going on there?
It's crazy because the number of women that I know who have gone to their spouses and been like, "I'm really unhappy. I'm utterly exhausted. This division of labor is not working and I can't deal with it." And the men are like, "Sounds like a you problem. I think everything's fine." And it's like, "Oh, wait a minute." First of all, in a healthy relationship, if the relationship or something is not working for one party, it's not working. The relationship is not working. And the proper response to that is, "Oh no, what do we need to do? How do we need to fix this?" Um, Not, "Sounds like a you problem. Maybe you should go to therapy." Right? Because when we say to our spouses, I think we need to go to therapy because I'm not being heard or whatever. So often men say, there's no problem. I'm fine. So
Fine.
if you're unhappy, then maybe you're the one who should go to therapy. Instead of understanding that, no, this is actually a relationship issue.
That's the time to have the conversation. That's when you can start trying to problem solve together. But if
Mhm.
if
That's right.
not hearing you over and over, and nothing is changing,
Uh-huh.
then it's time to and you decide you can't live like this anymore. That's when you're going to have the conversation. But
That's right. And that is the time at which they are and this is why you have to be so grounded in what you're doing and what you're saying, because I guarantee you he will now want to go to therapy.
yes.
And so this is why it takes so much longer, right? This is why we do it over and over again, because we're like, "Oh, well, he wants to go to therapy now. I guess I should give this a chance. If he's willing to work on it." But if we know in our hearts that, first of all, if you've been asking your spouse to go to therapy for years and they have denied your humanity to the degree that they're refusing to see that there's an issue that they might be responsible for creating and or co-responsible for solving, that is a big problem. And going to therapy now feels a little disingenuous. It feels like, oh, I see. My ex-husband, when I told him I wanted a divorce, 2 weeks later, he came to me and I said, "I'm so sorry. I just never thought you'd leave." And that's exactly what the "I'll go to therapy now, I promise" is. It's, I've actually been capable of doing the work to solve this, whatever issues we're having. I just didn't think I had to.
Yeah, I didn't want
Is
to.
that a I didn't want to. Is that a person you want to stay married to? Really?
Only under threat and duress are they willing to, like, listen to you.
Yeah, and the amount of work that it's gonna take you, again, in that therapeutic process which they will not participate in. I guarantee it. Certainly not in the way that will make any difference. It would take years at this point. And I don't think you have that time anymore.
Yeah.
If you've already gotten to this point of making this. But this is why we backtrack, because all of a sudden they're pulling out all the stops. All of a sudden they start love bombing, they beg, they cry. I actually have a bingo card for this.
I don't care about your bingo card.
Well, it's
What
just
is
so
that?
predictable, right? I've heard it. Here's the thing. When it's you, and this is the first time you've ever had this experience, you don't know that this is actually very predictable. So when I work with my clients on this, I tell them all of the things that are going to happen, so that when they happen, they're like, oh, look at that. I can check that off on the bingo card. Right?
Yep,
They're
he
going to
said
find,
that.
yeah, he's going to find God. The first thing they'll do is clean everything in the house and fix everything that you've been begging them to fix. The gutters will be clean. Your house will be pristine. They will be doing the dishes. They're going to take the kids to school. They're going to pack lunches, right? And you're like, oh my God, I have the husband I've always wanted. Well, first of all, if they were capable of doing all of these things and they never did them, like, again, that's a problem.
Right.
If they're only doing it under duress, that's a problem. And also, the shelf life for these things is about 2 to 3 weeks,
Yes. I'll
which
go
is
back.
why we're like, oh my God, I have to have this conversation again. Oh my God, I have to do this again. I can't believe I have to do this again, because after 3 weeks or so, things start slipping off and you're like, oh, and now we're back.
And you're probably not going to have the conversation in 3 weeks. You're going to give it another month or 2 or 6 or a year, and then have the conversation. So then it's gone completely back to,
That's exactly
maybe it's
right.
even worse where you were. So
That's exactly right.
So you talk about, writing out the script, using the bingo card, predicting, and just anyone listening to this, I hope you're understanding. This is such a normal experience that you're having. It's not you. It's not
No,
them. It's the way we have set relationships up. This is it. This is just kind of normal right now for
that's right.
many, many couples. So talking to someone like Kate, me, whoever, we can normalize this for you, but also help you so it doesn't have to be your normal forever. So when we're helping someone create the script for how to have a conversation that really sticks this time, what's going into that? How do you help
So,
that?
yeah. So the first thing is to create like the declarative statement, which should be no longer than a sentence, right? It should kind of start with a little bit of empathy and gratitude, because I think, we call that an S sandwich. I don't know if I can say the word on your show, but
Go.
right, like we create this, like, hey, I really appreciate the work that you've done. I really appreciate how hard you've worked to make this work. Or I love that we've created these beautiful children together. Whatever it is. Unfortunately, and by the way, you've probably had this conversation many times before, or you have said some version of, I'm really unhappy. I really can't deal with this anymore. And so, as you know, I've been struggling a lot with this marriage. And unfortunately, I've come to the decision that I can no longer remain married to you, and I need to move forward with divorce. Something like that. Something like, say it.
Yep.
Say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. Right? So if you're filing for divorce, first of all, please don't file before you tell them. Please do not file and have them served, just to kind of avoid the conversation, which people want to do all the time, and I understand, but like that will land you in litigation faster than anything else.
Yep.
Because it's disrespectful to this person that, if you are, unless you're unsafe. If you are unsafe, absolutely. But if you are safe to do so, and it's just uncomfortable, or you don't feel like you can get through it, you need to have it in person. And so you make the declarative statement, you write it out, and then you think about this person that you've been married to for all these years, what are they going to say? What are their responses going to be in this moment? And the important thing to know is that this conversation has one objective and one objective only, which is to impart this information. You're not making decisions today. So if they're like, what about the house? And who's going to, I'm going to take the kids and you're never going to see the kids, or you're not going to get any money, blah, blah, blah. Right. First of all, you should also have had a consultation with an attorney before this so that you have all of the legal information that you need so that when they say these things, you can say, so that's not how divorce works. Because so many women hear that and go, oh God, oh no, okay, I'm never going to see my kids again.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is for someone to get full custody of children?
And they don't even want full custody.
And by the way, they don't want it. Exactly. So it is so important to have this conversation mapped out so that when they say the thing that that they're going to say, which might be, but what are we going to do about this? And what are we going to then you write down, have another response written that says, I understand that you're scared and we have a lot of decisions to make in the next few months. Today is not the day to make those decisions. Let's just sit with the understanding. I just want to impart this information to you and give you some time to process it. And then let them know, I'm not filing tomorrow. I'm not going to, I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting you know.
Hey listeners, it's Andrea Vacca here, your host of a Better Divorce podcast. If you're looking for ways to navigate your divorce with less conflict and more cooperation, my free ebook, Divorce Without Court, A More Peaceful Solution, can help you do just that. Divorce Without Court shows you how to reach an agreement without court involvement, from understanding mediation and collaborative divorce to learning how to keep your divorce under your control. This book covers it all. You'll even find practical checklists and first steps to help you move forward and guide you through the process. With over 3 decades of experience in family law, I've helped countless couples and families achieve peaceful solutions. Divorce Without Court puts that knowledge in your hands. Whether you're just starting to think about ending your marriage or if you're already in the process, this free ebook will help you have a better divorce. Why wait? Click the link in the episode description to download Divorce Without Court, A More Peaceful Solution. Take control of your future and move forward in your divorce with confidence and composure. All right, Kate. So you've told them that you want a divorce. It's a declarative statement. You're not making a request. You're not asking their permission. You're not saying, don't you agree this should happen now? Nothing like that. Mm-mm. And you're letting it sit with them, and you're not trying to solve all the problems all the issues that are going to come from this decision. This is not the time. So what is the best thing for somebody to do after having said, I want a divorce? This is happening.
Yeah.
What do they do next? What is the best advice that you have?
Give it time. Just pause. Pause and breathe and look, for the most part, when women are done, we're done. Mainly because we have been grieving this relationship for 5 years. If this will be, no matter how many times you've told your spouse that you're unhappy or that you want a divorce, this will 100% blindside them because you've never followed through on it before and you've never been so clear about it before. And so they are going to, I'm so blindsided. I never saw this coming. Really? Yeah. But they never saw it coming. They really didn't believe you would ever do this. And so your job is to give them time to process it. So what's going to happen is they're going to pull out all the stops. They're going to, do all the things. They're going to go into all of the stages of grief. They're going to go into denial. I hear all the time, it's as if we never had the conversation. Well, sure. Because he thinks that if he just keeps whistling past the graveyard, everything's going to be fine, right? Because you've never followed through before. He's just going off of exactly how it's always been. So now if you say, Hey, honey, it's been a couple of weeks since we had that conversation. Gosh, I really appreciate all the work you've done in the house and how helpful you've been with the children. I just kind of want to make sure that you know that I'm still planning on moving forward with this. And I think we should start talking about next steps. And they're going to have another emotional reaction, right? And you'll say, if you need a little bit more time, I get it. I'm going to start calling around and maybe getting some uh, uh, recommendations of mediators, or we can talk about collaborative divorce. But I just want to let you know that I'm trying to. I want to be respectful of your process, and also I want to make sure you understand that I am moving forward with this. And it's perfectly fine to acknowledge, like, look, I know we've had this conversation before, and I've never done anything about it. So you probably think I'm not doing anything about it this time. This time I am, right?
Yes.
This time I'm moving forward. So the whole thing is you being grounded in yourself, that you're so grounded in your decision, you're so confident in your decision, and you have done the work and researched and written out all of the stuff, that you're kind of immovable in this. And it's your immovability and your groundedness that will help them realize that, oh, this is actually happening.
She's serious this time, and
Mhm.
I have to do something about it. I think
Mhm.
a lot of, in particular, women, when they've spent years, decades, whatever it may be, asking for being unhappy, they make the decision, they want 'em, and then they make the decision, and now they want everything to move very quickly. They wanna rip that Band-Aid off because 'cause it's been so painful,
It's been so
and
long.
have
Mhm.
to give so long. You have to give him time to process this, but there's things you can do. You can be getting legal advice. You can start getting
Yes.
clear on your finances. This is a great
Yes.
opportunity when, he knows this is happening, so you can ask for the documents you need. You don't have to be sneaking around. You can start educating yourself and getting clarity, and
That's
then when
right.
he's ready, and if he's not getting ready, you can, like, have this second conversation where, "I'm moving forward. You're going to have to come along. I wanna
That's
give you
right.
space and be respectful, but it will move at the pace of the slowest person. You can't just wait completely for them to catch up.
Nope.
There has to be a little
Nope.
pushing, but it can't be too much
Yep.
pushing." So, getting
Yep.
advice from your coach, from your lawyer, whoever it may be, for that right balance is gonna be really important right now.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, right? That because they're gonna try to stall things. They're not gonna be ready. They're not gonna be able to do stuff. It's gonna feel really, uh it is gonna feel like they're trying to stall. And they are, maybe they are.
Yeah.
And so, when they say financial disclosures, I think, are the biggest stalling piece in this, right? It's overwhelming. It's a huge job. It's terrible and annoying, right? And also, a lot of men I see in my practice, a lot of men thinking that they can get away without doing it. Right? It's like I've asked him so many times, and at a certain point, right? You've asked, your attorney has asked, you've asked nicely, your mediator has asked, right? Eventually, you file a motion to compel because they think that they can get away with not doing it. It is non-negotiable, right? It is non-negotiable. And judges don't like it. If you end up before a judge will literally just be like, "Give us the documents. You have, 15 days, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it."
If you're a mediation or collaborative, that's no excuse not to get the information you need to make decisions that you need to make, whatever
That's
that
right.
is. So just
Yeah.
because you're out of court, if you wanna stay out of court, you better provide all the documents being requested. Otherwise, I'm dealing with the matter right now. Exact
That's
same
right.
situation where,
You
you
have to
know
call their bluff on it. You do. At a certain point, there is that, like, I'm respectful of of your process and your emotional process. And look, again, this goes back to men in particular not being emotionally supported. They don't have the tools. And this is the time when a lot of men will either threaten or attempt self-harm because they actually don't know how to function without their wives. They really don't. And they spiral into this, darkness, and it can be a very dangerous time. And your the best thing you can do is call and get them the help that they need in this moment, because it's not you. And if they're using that as a bluff, as a tactic, you will have called their bluff and they'll never do it again. If they're not, they'll get the help that they need, right? But that's not a reason to stay married to someone,
Exactly.
right? But it is a reason that sometimes they're stalling because they literally are in such emotional turmoil that they don't know how to proceed. Their whole lives have been ripped out from under them. And I have compassion for that, but also there has to be some acknowledgement that they contributed to this. That, um, yeah.
Yeah, and you need to take care of yourself first. Put on your
Mhm.
oxygen mask, have the kind of life that you want, stand in your truth, stand in your power. The best way to if you don't want to be married to this person, you can be respectful, you can be kind, you can be patient to an extent, but it's
That's
up to
right.
them to get the help they need. You can be there,
That's
but
right.
it's not you can't save them anymore.
That's right. And so the words to use when they're like, I can, if whatever it is that they come to you and say, like, I'm drowning, I can't, I don't want to live, blah, 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 blah. Instead of engaging with them, your response should be, I really hope that you choose to get the help that you need right now.
But
Unfortunately, it can't be me for a variety of reasons. I'm not qualified, and also, like, it can't be me, right? So, but for your sake and for the sake of our children, please, please get some help.
that's it. I
Yeah.
like it can't be me.
Can't be you.
Can't
It's
be.
been you for years and it's not working because, you're not a therapist. And if you are a therapist, you can't be theirs. So,
Right.
you know, yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. This is so I really enjoyed our conversation. It was so helpful. Um, I yeah, I think it was very helpful to anyone listening who just to normalize the situation for people and to help them stand in where they need to be and reach out to Kate, of course, if you need more coaching on that. But I end every episode with my better divorce tip from my guests. So, what's your better divorce tip today?
Ooh.
What would you say is one thing? It could be something we talked about or anything else.
I mean, I think the most important thing is, I believe, right? As we always say, that you're making the biggest legal and financial decisions of your life in the midst of the biggest emotional upheaval of your life. And it's a terrible combination. So allow yourself and your spouse some time to process and heal so that you're not going into all of the legal and financial stuff really angry, really bitter, really heartbroken, like, right? Because that is a recipe for litigation. So, yeah, that's
Hallelujah.
my tip.
Absolutely
Mhm,
agree. Yes.
mhm.
Like, give yourself time to process those emotions and give your spouse that time so that you can make decisions together. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So how can somebody find you or reach out to you or find your book?
Everything that I do is on my website, which is kateanthony.com. My book is The D Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage. And there's much more content and sample scripts in it about how to have this conversation. That's available wherever books are sold. And my podcast is the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. And yeah, and I run a really, really wonderful group coaching program for women going through divorce called Phoenix Rising. And it's really beautiful and amazing. And so I invite everyone to come join us in that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, it was great to have you here. Thank you. Um, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. This is the best way to help others who are seeking a better divorce to find us. And this has been another episode of a Better Divorce podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. You've been tuning in to another episode of a Better Divorce podcast with Andrea Vacca. Thank you for subscribing, leaving your positive comments and reviews, and sharing the show with others. You can watch episodes at vaccalaw.com, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And you can listen through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Bye for now, and remember, you can have a better divorce.